Hi friends, thank you so much for being here. Today's video, we're going to be talking about my number one makeup product in every single category. Here's a little sneak peek. It's going to be a long video, so sit down, buckle up, get a snack as we go through my number one in every single category. Let's go. Starting off with primers, I actually don't have a face primer. I'm not really a face primer kind of person. A lot of the times I feel like face primers actually ruin my base makeup and just add too many layers. For reference, I do have acne prone dry skin, but for eye primer, I chose the Kokie Double Time Full Coverage Concealer. I use the shade Medium Honey. There's a swatch of that shade. It does oxidize a little bit, and here's that shade blended out. So clearly it is too light to put on the face, but for the eyes, this covers up all the darkness and discoloration that I have on my lids. And if you like Tarte Shape Tape, but you've been wanting an affordable version of it or a dupe, this is a dupe for the original Tarte. I almost said Chart. And this does set itself almost completely. I do always set this with a powder. Moving on to base products, I have two categories. So I have a foundation and then a skin tint. And my number one foundation is the About Face The Performer Foundation. This is my summer shade in M2 Olive. If you ever want to know what my foundation shades are, I always have them listed in the description box down below. And then for skin tint, it's gotta be the Covergirl Essence. This is also my summer shade in Medium Tan 50. This is one of those where it has the pigment pearls and you really have to break them down. I do have videos using both of these. I have a full review on my channel that I will link somewhere in the cards. And then I've used this in several videos, but for today, I'm gonna go with the About Face because I've just been on another kick with this ever since I got a deeper shade. These are both great for dry skin. I would say the CoverGirl one is more so that no makeup, very dewy, fresh, glazed donut kind of skin, but very, very little coverage. This does take more work because compared to other products like these with pigment pearls, you have to take extra time to really break down the pigment pearls. But in my experience, this has never looked patchy. And even when I touch my face, it doesn't leave like marks where my fingers have touched my face. It doesn't really work the best with primers, but since I don't really go in with face primer, that's not an issue for me. Just a warning that grippy primers like the e.l.f. one or the Milk Makeup one are not gonna work well with this foundation. However, I just really don't think this foundation needs a primer. It is just that reliable and that trustworthy. This is my most reliable foundation, or when I don't really know like what to go in with, this is the foundation that I go in with. My problem area for base products is always in my smile lines because they get cracking. Product likes to settle in there, or I'll just get like dryness and crepiness around my mouth. This foundation has never done that to me. It just looks the exact same way as you applied it 10 hours later. So the Performer is a great name for this foundation. The undertones are great. Specifically, if you have olive undertones like myself, it can be so hard to find foundations with that undertone. Olive undertones are just not really catered for in general in the makeup industry. Or if you are of a very deep skin tone and you have trouble finding affordable foundations or any foundation that matches you, they have super deep shades. So overall, this is just such a good line, and it's only $22. But before I go in with foundation, I'm gonna go ahead and talk about a concealer pick. So I have two categories for concealer. The first is going to be a spot concealer, and then later on, I'll show you my under eye concealers pick. So for spot concealing, it's always going to be the Rem Beauty Sweetener Concealer. I use the shade Medium 7N. It perfectly matches the skin tone of my face, and there's that shade in Medium 7N. As you can see, it almost completely blends in with my skin tone, so If we are shade match buddies, medium 7N is great for olive skin. But this is my favorite spot concealer because it is a soft matte kind of finish, so it's not going to attract any light or any attention onto your blemishes. And as you can see, it has completely erased that redness of that acne spot. This concealer really grips to the skin. Even if you have oily skin, I think you would really like this, because an area on my face that product likes to just like slide right off of or not grip to is the nose. This is one of the only things that is going to adhere to my nose, even if it's hot outside, even if I'm touching my face. Now going in with my foundation, it comes with a big doe foot, which I do enjoy. It makes the application super quick. And here's a swatch. So again, this is M2 Olive. This is my summer shade. And it is literally like the perfect match for me right now. So here is a close-up of that About Face foundation. I'm not using any lights today, so this is 100% natural lighting. I always say about this foundation, it just looks skin-like. It's not overly dewy. It's definitely not matte. It's just a natural kind of finish. For concealer, it's gotta be the Tower 28 Serum Concealer. I use the shade MDR 9.0. It's great for dry skin. It does remind me of the Huda Beauty Concealer, but just like a more hydrating, serum-y version of the Huda Beauty Concealer, because it does partially set itself. I can let this concealer sit, but I don't have to because it maintains its coverage even as you blend it out. A lot of concealers, especially with a sponge, as you blend it out, the coverage will be absorbed. It's literally never given me any issues, so it's become my most reliable under eye concealer. Moving on to cheek products, starting off with cream bronzer is my beloved Milk Makeup Matte Bronzer Stick. And then for contour, I don't really contour except for my nose a little bit, but I thought I'd mention that it's also by Milk Makeup, their Sculpt Stick. So here are the shades I have. So I have the bronzer in the shade Blaze, and then the contour stick in the shade Stoked. And as you can see, even on the hand, they have a beautiful natural sheen to them. More so the bronzer than the contour. The bronzer does set down more as a matte and wears like a powder. I find that the contour stick does wear and apply more like emollient and creamy. But this is my number one because it is so easy to apply. It's extremely creamy, but it doesn't ever lift up my foundation. It's never patchy. And since it does set down and wear more like a powder, it is great for longevity. I never experience any fading. And it just blends like a dream. So here is what the bronzer is looking like. Really great over my texture as well. As you can tell, I do have like raised pimples and texture on my cheeks. And it just looks natural, smooth. I'm gonna go in with the contour stick, just a little bit on my nose. Next category is highlighter. So I have a cream/liquid highlighter and a powder highlight. So let's go ahead and get the obvious out of the way. Cream and liquid highlighter. It will always be the About Face Light Lock Fluid, specifically in the shade Roses in the Wall. There it is right there. This has been my favorite cream/liquid highlight for the past 3 years, so that's how you know it's real with this one. It does set down, like hair or anything won't stick to this product because it does set, and you really do not need a lot because this is so high impact and it's not glittery at all. Very close up, it really does look more like a satin, but is extremely pearlized, and when it catches the light, it is just So juicy. And then for powder highlight, it's gotta be the Smashbox X Becca Skin Perfectors, and specifically in Champagne Pop. This is the travel size version, but this is such a timeless formula. There's a swatch of Champagne Pop right there. They're extremely thin and silky to the touch. They're not one of those highlighters that's gonna add a lot of like texture or product on the face. They polish and lay extremely thin on the skin. And it's giving me that like 2016 highlight, but as you can tell, there's no white cast. Only when I catch the light do you really see it. But it's really not emphasizing my texture. Moving on to blush, this was the hardest category to pick for, like to just pick one, especially for cream blush. So I have a cream blush and then I also have a powder blush formula. So for the cream blush formula, this might come as a surprise, especially because I've been talking about the Rem Beauty blush sticks so much, specifically this summer, but it ended up being the Tower 28 Beach Please cream blushes. This is the formula I have bought the most shades in. I do like the shades in the Tower 28 line just a little bit more than Rem Beauty. As you can see in the pan, they're very, very moisturized, so great for dry skin. On the finger as well, super, super creamy. And this is the shade Office Hours, which is a beautiful like pinky mauve tone. And while these are super creamy, don't worry because they do blend out kind of powdery, because I always have such good longevity with these blushes, and the pigmentation is extremely flexible. And out of all of the blush formulas that I have tried and have in my collection, this one is the most beginner friendly. It's the easiest to work with because you can really add a very sheer wash of color, like how I'm doing on this side, just something very subtle, or especially if you have like a deeper skin tone, you can really pile this on. And I find that these colors don't have a lot of white in them, so I feel like even for deeper skin tones, you're going to be able to use a lot of shades in this line because they do still let your skin tone underneath show through. And then for powder blush, it was also like a really close tie between these ones and also the Too Faced Cloud Crush blushes, but I ultimately chose the REM Beauty Hypernova Satin Matte blushes. Today I'm gonna go in with Skinny Dipped, which goes really well with Office Hours. I recently got their blush brush, so I'd never tried any of REM Beauty's brushes before, but this is their blush brush that was made to work with this formula, and these two really do work very well together. I've been using this with my other powder blushes as well. This formula is extremely soft, extremely silky. I do have a swatching reels of the shades that I have and also of the bronzer. So there is a swatch of Skinny Dipped, and it is really blurring. The reason that I chose this formula over the Too Faced, because the Too Faced one is also blurring, but this one lasts way better than the Too Faced. And I've even worn this on bare skin. Like I'll get ready to go to work in the morning and I've just applied this, no cream underneath, and it has still lasted and shown up after my 12-hour shifts. Of course, not as like pigmented as when I first apply it, but it's still there and it's really shocked me. But as you can see, I still have the glow, so it's not going to like suck all the life and dewiness out of your blush if that's what you're looking for. And speaking of the Hypernova satin products, I completely forgot to mention my favorite powder bronzer, which is also from REM Beauty. This is their Hypernova Satin Matte Bronzer. Compared to the blushes, the bronzers are more pigmented. You definitely get more color payoff immediately. And I have the shade Blazed. Again, you can tell it's that very blurry cloudy kind of finish. I don't really wear this on its own because I'm more so like a cream kind of person, but I have been using this a lot this summer just to tap over on top of my bronzer to help with longevity. But they're never patchy. I just think these powders are extremely silky, smooth, extremely easy to blend. Like, you can't really tell where it starts or ends, which I really, really like. Now let's talk about my favorite powders. If you didn't know, I'm extremely, extremely picky with powders. Most powders, even powders that most people like, I don't like. So I have a setting powder and a pressed powder. Starting off with the setting powder, and it's not my one size translucent setting powder, I know. Shocking. But this year I discovered the Hourglass Translucent Veil setting powder. And I've barely touched my one size. This is just the most refined, luxurious, like extremely light and silky. It's so soft. Like it feels like I'm touching like the softest pillow or something. And I'll just do one side first so we can see the difference. I do think this is more blurring and smoothing than the one size powder. And you know how sometimes, specifically with a loose setting powder, if it comes in contact with something that has moisture, like a cream or a liquid, it will like congeal and gather up upon itself and create weird textures. This one never, ever, ever does that. Now for pressed powder, it's the one and only Kosas Cloud Set. This is in the travel size. The Hourglass powder I also have in the travel size. And I have the shade Comfy, which is good for medium skin tones. And this is the creamiest setting powder or pressed setting powder I have ever tried. It feels like the Hourglass, and where it is so cloudy and soft, like touching like a squishmallow or something. So this is great for dry skin. Or as a touch-up powder, this is so good as a touch-up powder. It's extremely blurring and it has just enough coverage where it's really good for the under eyes. It creates just like a subtle difference. So I just added a little bit on this side. I haven't added any on this side, but it adds that cloudy, very blurred kind of texture. Moving on to eyebrows, hands down, my favorite eyebrow gel is the Rare Beauty Laminating Lifting Brow Gel. I'm almost through with this tube, but this is so, so good if you have really coarse hairs, or if you have trouble with laying the tail ends of your eyebrows down, which is something that I struggle with. The front lays down easily, but the tails really like to poke up. This is an extremely strong hold, but unlike a lot of laminating lifting brow gels, I'm thinking of like the Patrick Ta one, which I personally don't like because it gives me white dandruff. And then in terms of like an eyebrow pencil or like an eyebrow pen, I don't have this product. It's the only product that I don't have with me for today's video, but it is the Milani Weekend Brow Tint Pen. That is my favorite eyebrow color cosmetic to use, but I'm forcing myself to try new things. So for today, I'm going to be using the NYX Micro Brow Pencil, which is definitely my favorite brow pencil I've ever tried. But if I was going to pick between this and the Milani, I would definitely just go for the Milani. I like the Milani one because it's more subtle, but it is extremely long wearing. Like, I'm talking like it's kind of hard to remove almost, but that just means that it is so good with the heat, with sweat. Even if you're rubbing and touching your eyebrows, like that one is so legit. Eyebrows are filled in, so let's go in with the brow gel. And as you can see, it has like a stiff peak, which means that it's really going to lay those hairs down. You can see the hairs are flat to my face, which that is what I want, especially in the summer. And I've sweat with this on. I've swam in the lake, in the river with this brow gel on, and my brows will still be exactly how I laid them. Before we talk all things eyes, I'm going to go ahead and set my face with my favorite setting spray, which is from Ulta Beauty's in-house brand, Ulta Beauty Collection, and it is their Matte Veil Setting Spray. They've recently revamped and rebranded, but the formula is still the same, and this is the best alcohol-free, fragrance-free, essential oil-free setting spray I've ever tried, and it's also affordable. This is the 3.38 fluid ounce version, and it's only $12, and Ulta Beauty Collection always goes on sale, so you can get this for even less. It is just unbeatable. I do like this one more than the Dewy Glaze version, its counterpart, specifically in the summer. In the wintertime, I'll probably reach for the Dewy Glaze one more. And the mist is super fine. It never leaves like visible droplets. It's more like the Cali Ray Surf Proof, where it feels like a matte setting spray, but it doesn't leave your face like tight or anything, or adds like, or makes your skin look dry. Moving on to all things eyes. So I'm just gonna go ahead and share everything and do some swatches, and then we'll decide what kind of eye look to do. So my favorite eyeshadow palette, which happens to be my newest eyeshadow palette, but I just can't deny it's the I Need a Warm, brand new from Natasha Denona. And when I was looking at my other eyeshadow palettes and thinking about which one I would pick over all the other ones, it was this one. I know that I just got this, but the color story is just exactly what I like. I like neutral eyeshadows with a really shiny shimmer. And if you want to see swatches, some eye looks, I did that last week. So last week's video is a full review. I also do have short/reels of swatches and looks as well that I will link for you. But moving on to single eyeshadow/eyeshadow topper, it is this Moira Lucent Cream Shadow in the shade Jupiter. I reach for this all the freaking time. This is my favorite topper, and I do like it just a little bit more than ColourPop Ritz, which that would have been my choice if you asked me a year ago. It is more so just a clear base with a bunch of different kinds of sparkles. So there's not really a base pigment, like maybe a little bit of brown, especially when I turn my hand like that, but it's a very light base, so really it's gonna seem of like a wet gloss, more like a translucent kind of shine on the lids. And this is only like $7.50. For eyeshadow stick, this one was kind of difficult, I'm not gonna lie, because it was between this one or the ColourPop eyeshadow sticks, but ultimately it did come down to color. And so my favorite eyeshadow stick is from Nabla. This is their Cupid's Arrow Stylo Pen, and this shade is number 1 Nude. So it's a perfect, slightly warm, peachy kind of brown. This one is extremely thin, but you do need to work more quickly with this one because it will set down quicker than the ColourPop one. And then for eyeliner, I have a liquid eyeliner and a pencil eyeliner. Starting with the pencil eyeliner, which should be no surprise if you've been here for the past year. It is the LA Girl gel eyeliners. They're shockwave eyeliners. I have several colors, but this black one in the shade Blackout, this is so creamy, pigmented, it glides. It's kind of like the drugstore version to the Urban Decay 24/7 Glide On pencils, except this one is more malleable and it doesn't set down as stiff as the Urban Decay ones. So it does set, but as you can see, you can still smudge it, so it's easy enough to work with where you're not going to be tugging or pulling at your eyes. And then for liquid eyeliner, you're probably expecting me to say the Urban Decay Ergonomic liquid liner. I love that one, but when I think about how I do liquid liner, I had to choose an oldie but a goodie, the KVD tattoo liners. I like Mad Max Brown. I also do have Trooper, which is the black, but this is just the best brown eyeliner. It creates a really thin line. As you can see, it is a brush tip, an extremely pointy, thin brush tip. And this stuff, like, this is the longest wearing eyeliner, and I have tried a lot of the popular ones. It doesn't bleed or sink into the fine lines. And I just applied this, and you can see this is already budge proof. And I like to do the inner corner wing, so that's why I chose this one over the Urban Decay. While the Urban Decay one is still great in the inner corner and on the lid, this one is just still better. It is just so freaking budge proof, and I do prefer this tip over the Urban Decay one to do that inner corner wing. For today's eye look, I think I'm gonna use a little bit of everything, or at least try to. So first I'm gonna lay down the Nabla eyeshadow stick all over the lid and also into the crease. I do want some more warmth in the crease, so I'm gonna go into this matte shade called Fervor from I Need a Warm. I'm gonna use some of Jupiter to dust all over my lid. I'm gonna add a little bit of depth on the inside part of my lid using the darkest matte in the palette, which is called Pep. Now with my KVD liner, I'm gonna do that inner corner wing. I decided not to do a wing on the lid because I am gonna wear lashes and I feel like they'll just cover them up. But for my favorite false lashes, it's still the Ardell 257s. These are the mega volumes. So they have like multiple layers to them, but they're also tapered. So I really like the cat eye effect that these give, and they work for my small eyes. I never have to trim these. They just fit my eyelid perfectly. And these are so easy to apply. Ardell lashes are still the easiest lashes I've ever applied in my life. But before that, I am gonna go back into the darkest matte on that little smudge brush and just go at the very corner close to my lashes and add a little bit of shadow there. It'll just help make my lashes look a little bit more thick. For mascara, to no surprise, it's the IT Cosmetics Lash Blowout. I use this in basically every single video. It is one of the only mascaras that I can use on the top and bottom. I'm also extremely picky with mascaras, and a lot of them will smudge if I put them on the lower lashes. It isn't waterproof, but it does not flake or smudge. Last category is lips, and then we'll be out of here. So for lip liner, this is going to be quite a shock to some of you that know my favorite lip liners, but it's actually the new Fenty Beauty Traced Out lip pencils. Ever since I tried these, it's been one of the only lip liners I've been wearing. I'm just so obsessed with the longevity of these. They're super creamy and glidey. I do have a short slash reel already on my channel where I'm swatching these if you want to see the colors. So if you want a super creamy gel-like formula that sets down and does not budge, even if you put something really glossy or sticky on top, The Fenty Beauty ones really are the tea. And then I have a glossy lip product, a matte lip product, and a lip stain. So for my glossy lips, this is anything that's like a lip balm, a lip gloss, a lip oil. I just condensed it into one category. I didn't want to make this video longer than it had to be. So for the glossy lip product, my number one, and also kind of a new discovery, but it's just that good that I do prefer this over my other favorites, and it is the REM Beauty Glossy Balm. I have been wearing this almost every single day since I got it. I do reach for this more than my beloved e.l.f. lip oil in Jam Session or my NYX Fat Oils, which those are like my favorite lip oils slash lip glosses, but this is better, I'm telling you. The applicator is super cool. It's super, super hydrating. It's basically a liquefied lip balm. And I have the shade Cherry Cola, which is one of the darkest shades. And the shine, as you can see, one of the shiniest glass lip products I've ever tried. So this is my ride or die, my number one. For matte lips, so this includes any kind of bullet lipstick or lip crayon kind of formulation, and to no surprise, it is the AF94 Matte Brat Lip Crayon in Soda Popped. I've been talking about this ever since last year, and this is the shade Soda Popped. It's the perfect pink nude. This is the exact kind of pinky nude that I go for, and this formulation is extremely thin, and it kind of feels like silicone-y on the lips. And even though it's matte, it doesn't emphasize the lips. It makes them look really smooth, not dry or cracked whatsoever. And this is one of the longest wearing lip products I've ever tried. And then for my favorite lip stain, it is from Unleashia. It's their non-sticky Dazzle Tint in the shade 3. And this one also smells like pears. It smells really, really good. And here is the shade 3, which is also really shiny, a really beautiful burnt red. And I like this more than my other lip stains because it is full pigmentation, but it has a very slippy, blurred lip kind of feel to the lips. It's not drying whatsoever. It has a very moisturized, balmy kind of feel, and it stays looking shiny even if you're rubbing your lips, even if some wears off. It really is a non-sticky Dazzle Tint. That shine is just insane, and this is one of the best stains next to the Milani, what is it, like the Fruit Fetish lip stains. This is the longest wearing lip stain I have, but isn't drying and affordable. Just can't beat it. So for today's lip combo, I'm gonna start off with the Fenty lip pencil in Rubber Bands. Next, I'm gonna apply a layer of the Dazzle Tint. I'm gonna let this settle into the lips. I'm gonna blot it off and then apply the Glossy Balm on top. And this is the final makeup look. I'm very pleased with how this look came out. I think it's beautiful, using my number one products in every single category. I would love to know some of your number one products in every single category, and if any of these that I've shared with you are also your number ones. And if you want more tutorials, get ready with me's, and other makeup things, then like, comment, subscribe. I'm sending you guys so much love and light. And I will see you in